Now let's look at situations where you're meeting a person at your office. You're meeting a client at your office. One of the things you need to ensure is that your office should inspire confidence, which is that your office, you must appear to be professional. There shouldn't be a clutter on the table, because the cluttered desk shows a cluttered mind. It should be orderly, because if you're orderly and it looks very clear and neat, it looks as though you're very professional. If on the other hand, if it's disorderly with files on both sides of your chair and on your desk, etc., it looks as though you're very disorganized, and that disorganization doesn't inspire confidence. The other situation is if the client is on time, if he comes to you, if he's made an appointment to be with you at 3 o'clock and he appears and comes in at 3 o'clock, he has respected your time. You must not keep the visitor waiting. You need to also indicate and show to him that you value his time and that you appreciate that he's come on time. You must not keep him waiting. Of course, there are situations where you might be on a phone call when the client comes, or there might be some other imperative which results in your not being able to call the client immediately. If that is so, it is only pure courtesy and decency if you tell someone in your office to go to the client, explain the situation to him, and keep him company, make him comfortable until you are free from the imperative that you are involved in. The moment a client comes, it is courtesy also to offer refreshments. It is possible that the client has come to you after having traveled for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in a city that's not uncommon. He might be tired, he might be in need of refreshments. It's courtesy to offer refreshments. Ideally, and in very many offices, it usually does occur that you are required to go and bring the customer to your office. If that is so, you should go to the client, thank him for coming on time, and then escort him to your office or to the conference room where you are going to meet him. If on the other hand, you have a secretary or an assistant who escorts your visitor to you, it's very important that you stand up, greet your visitor, shake hands with him, and allow him to be seated. There are times when you are having a discussion, and in spite of the fact that you have asked not to be disturbed, there may be a call on your mobile phone, or something else, as a consequence of which you are forced to take the call. Now, ideally, when you're meeting a client, the decent thing to do would be not to take calls. But if there is a call which you have to take, one of the most awkward situations, which I've come across very often, is the person picks up the phone and says, "I'm in a business meeting," which is fine. I'm in a business meeting. All the person then, the individual should then say is, "I'm in a business meeting, can I call you back later?" On the other hand, very often you receive a call, you would pick up the phone and then say, "I'm in a business meeting, can I call you in 10 minutes? The message that you tell your client is, the poor person who has traveled for 2 hours to come to you, is that this meeting is over in 10 minutes. It's gone. So as a consequence of which, it puts him on a bad wicket. He starts rushing through what he has to say because he says, "I've only got 10 minutes left to discuss." That's wrong. You need to, if you have to take the call, just say, "I will call you back after my meeting is over." Do not give any time. And after the meeting, it's only courteous that you should escort the person out, either to his car, or if you're in a multi-storied building, up to the lift, and wait until the lift comes and the visitor gets in, and then the lift closes, and then you can leave. That's the courteous thing to do. Or if you are not able to leave because you've got somebody else also with you, please ensure that the person is escorted out by one of your colleagues. The person has taken the trouble to come to your office. It's only fair for you to take that person out and thank him for having come to see you. Another situation is when you go to a client's office to meet him. It's very important that you make an appointment. You need to appreciate that time is money, time is important, and you've got to respect the other person's time. You can't just barge in whenever you feel like. You need to make an appointment. And having made an appointment, you should ensure that you're on time. There is a tremendous amount of times, and there is a tendency also for people to come late. Sometimes fashionable, but it's not correct, it's not etiquette, it's not good, because you need to tell the other person, the client, that you also value his time. I know of many instances where people say, I will come and see you at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then as far as they're concerned, any time after 10 and up to 12 o'clock is 10 a.m. That's not so. You need to be on time. Of course, there are times when you might be a little late. There may be a traffic jam. You may be caught for something else which may have happened, as a consequence of which you are not able to make it. If that is so, it is only courteous for you to ring up your client and tell him, I'm sorry, I'm going to be late. I'm likely to be an hour late. I'm likely to be half an hour late. Would it be all right if I come later, or should we reschedule the meeting? That shows that you respect his time. And very often if a person comes late, there's no need to meet him because your time is important. If a person doesn't come on time and you've got another meeting scheduled an hour later, it's important that you make that meeting. You cannot afford to miss a meeting because the client has been discourteous to come late. I remember a situation when I had a meeting with the senior executive, the chief executive of a very large organization, and the meeting was at 10 o'clock. I was there at 10 o'clock, and just before my meeting started, this gentleman asked me, how long do you think our meeting is likely to take? So I felt that meeting is likely to take about 45 minutes, and I said so. I said, I think we'll need about 45 minutes. And he said, that's fine, because I have a meeting scheduled at 11 o'clock. I want to know whether our meeting would go over to 11 o'clock, because if it did, then I would have to reschedule that meeting a little. This shows that he respected not only my time, but the times of others. And as soon as you walk into your client's office, when you meet your client, if your host is seated, there is no reason why you should be standing. Because if the host is a little discourteous and he sits and says, hello, how are you? It's important that you also sit down and face him, because it's a meeting again of equals. It's not otherwise, and it is also incredibly awkward for one to be standing whereas the other is sitting. If you go as a group, the question always arises as to who should introduce who first and who should speak. The person who knows the other person is the person who should do the introduction. Or if no one knows anyone else, then it should be the senior most person who should first introduce himself and then introduce his team. Another factor that you should need to remember is that the table space, as far as your client is concerned, is his. You're meeting him at his office. It is his space. You do not place your papers or briefcase, etc. on his table. That's his. Nor should you touch items on his desk, because that's again his personal matter. Nor, if he's on a phone, look and see the papers on his desk. That's his personal matter. It is etiquette not to look at those things. You need to mind your business, because you've got to meet him on one matter. You have no business prying on his personal affairs or his other issues. What about a group meeting? When you are you could be initiating a meeting, or you could be part of a meeting. If you are the organizer or the chairman of a meeting, it's very important that you ensure everything is correct, which means you need to ensure the venue is appropriate for the kind of meeting that you are hosting, that there is enough seating space for all the people you have invited for that meeting, there is adequate writing paper, the computer if required is there, any other meeting enhancers that is required like slide projectors, overhead projectors, loudspeakers, etc. that are required are available easily. If you need to make sure that invitations are sent to all the people who are going to be present at the meeting, they know what is going to be discussed at the meeting, they know the location of the meeting, and if they do not know the location of the meeting, you should give them information as to where the meeting is to be, whether there are sufficient parking facilities available as far as a vehicle is concerned, and the best way to get to that place. As the chairman, you must also ensure that you are there on time, at least a little before, to make sure that all the facilities and all the requirements are there. As far as a participant is concerned, as a participant, you should know what the meeting is to be about. You need to also make sure that you are fully prepared for the discussion. A meeting is a meeting of minds. You as a participant would have been invited to the meeting for your views, for your thoughts, not to be just a pretty face. So you need to make sure that you are there to contribute to that meeting, so that ideas can be expressed, thoughts can be stated, and decisions can be arrived at. It's important that all are on time, ideally a little before time, so that you have time to sit down and prepare for the meeting. Another you must ensure is that you must not butt in while another person is talking. Meeting is a meeting of minds, as I said earlier, and everyone's views and thoughts are important. So therefore, if you have an opinion, you should be given enough time to state your opinion. If another person has a valid point, he should be given adequate time to state his views and thoughts. And it's also important to respect another's point of view. Everyone has unique ideas, and it's only by respecting another person's point of view and saying and hearing what other people have to say that decisions, valid, well thought of decisions, can be arrived at. I remember once when there was a company sitting down where they were talking about, senior executives of a company were discussing strategy for their next year. And one individual came up with a thought, not necessarily a great thought, but he came up with a thought on how the strategy should be evolved. And the managing director, was a very aggressive, dominating sort of person, said, "What you're saying is rubbish, absolute rubbish. This is the way I think we should go." The moment he said that, he had humiliated the other individual, and all the others who were listening in were turned off, because they said, if we express an idea, the managing director may turn around and tell us what we've said is also stupid. So people stopped airing their views. The result was the meeting quickly got reduced to a monologue where the managing director was stating what he thought was the strategy, and everybody said yes, 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 yes. It became a situation of the master stating what should be done and all the others, without thinking, just saying yes, we'll do that. There was no buy-in, there was no acceptance. It was just the managing director saying this is the way forward and everybody else saying okay. Needless to say, the strategy failed because there was no buy-in, no one accepted the thoughts, and also what the managing director did was he shut everybody else up. It was no longer a meeting. He could have achieved what he did. He could have achieved this by just sending a memo and saying this is the way we would proceed for the next year. There was no requirement for a meeting. And as I said earlier, whenever there is a meeting, you need to respect other people's point of views, and you need to also participate. By not participating, you're not being in the meeting. Everyone has unique thoughts, unique ideas, as you would have. You may have a different viewpoint, a different approach to the whole problem, and it's important that you participate. Tell them what you need to say, what you feel. Another very important aspect in a group meeting is you need to be open. You cannot go in with very set thoughts and rules, because then you'll be very rigid. You'll not be accepting of new ideas. You must go with an open mind. Yes, by all means have thoughts, but you cannot assume that your thought is the only thought which is right. You must accept that others may have also views. Others may have very interesting thoughts, and therefore you must listen to all these thoughts and have views. Another very good, very important aspect is in regard to mobile phones. Now, one of the important aspects is that there should not be any disturbance while this conversation is going on, while the meeting is going on. Another huge deterrent is a mobile phone, because if a mobile phone rings, it stops the meeting completely and it creates a certain amount of chaos. I remember a situation when a firm of professional consultants was making a presentation to a bank about their treasury strategy. And right in the middle of that discussion and that presentation, the chairman's phone rang. And he picked up the phone and we heard three words. How much? How did it happen? Who was responsible? Since it was a bank, the immediate reaction was how much money was lost. Second, how did it happen? How did this loss take place? And then, who is responsible? Whose head is going to roll? Everyone lost interest after that, and they were trying to hear what the chairman was saying, what he was hearing, and the poor consultants had to keep quiet because no one was listening to their presentation afterwards. So you need to make sure that whenever there is a meeting, that the phone is switched off. It doesn't break up a meeting. There are situations where you may need to take a call or you're expecting a call. If that is so and you're a participant, you should tell the chairman of the meeting that you're expecting a call, and if the call comes, that you may have to take it. And if you have to take that call, as opposed to disturbing the meeting, keep your phone in a vibrating mode, and the moment that call comes, excuse yourself and go out so that the meeting is not disturbed in any manner. Because if a meeting is disturbed, the train of thought goes, etc. Another very important aspect is there should be a very clear agenda in a meeting, and one must follow that agenda. If you do not follow the agenda, what occurs is that various other topics get discussed, and the main topic for which you are there in that meeting for gets missed out, as a consequence of which a meeting which is scheduled for 1 hour or 2 hours drags on for 3 or 4 hours and no valid conclusions are arrived at. If you are the chairman of a meeting, you need to make sure that the meeting sticks to the agenda. The moment it moves away, you need to bring it back so that people do not lose their focus. That's incredibly very, very important. There are many no-nos also as far as a meeting is concerned. One is pen clicking. You click a pen. especially a ball pen. The reason I'm saying that you should not do so is that it disturbs the meeting. It creates a certain kind of discomfort. It takes the attention away. Another is pointing a pen when you speak to someone, because that's it is personified. It is taken as though you are attacking another person. You are accusing a person. Another, of course, is looking at the ceiling or going to sleep, because that shows disinterest. You're not interested in what that person is speaking. If you're not interested in the person and what that person is speaking, you have no business being in that meeting. Go away. Do not disturb the atmosphere of the meeting. Another is, again, shaking a leg or fidgeting or moving around, because that again disturbs the others. Others are interested in the meeting. They are contributing to the meeting. Why should you break up the meeting? Another, and which happens very often, is you might send SMSs while another person is talking. So you're not concentrating, and therefore you're not again participating. You're at a meeting in order to participate. And that's what you should be doing, to participate. Because a meeting is important. That is the reason why you're there. You're there to contribute, not do any other things. There are intervals, there are breaks. Those are the times when you can make your phone calls, when you can SMS and do other things. If you're not going to contribute to the meeting, if you're going to fidget and disturb the meeting, go away. This is what I need to talk to you about meetings. In short, we discussed in this discussion how you meet people, how you shake hands, how you introduce yourself, how you introduce others, what you should not do when shaking hands. Things like having your hands in your pocket, not looking at a person in the eye. You should also introduce the more important person. You should introduce the more important person to the other person. And we talked about how you should conduct yourself at a client meeting, a client coming to your office, and how you should conduct yourself at group meetings and what you should do if you're conducting a group meeting. We also talked about what you should not do at meetings. Thank you.